the most powerful democracy is detaining hundreds of suspected foot soldiers of the Taliban in a legal black hole at the United States Naval Base at Guantanamo Bay, where they await trial on capital charges by military tribunals. This episode must be put in context. Democracies must defend themselves. Democracies are entitled to try officers and soldiers of enemy forces for war crimes. But it is a recurring theme in history that in times of war, armed conflict, or perceived national danger, even liberal democracies adopt measures infringing human rights in ways that are wholly disproportionate to the crisis. Ill-conceived, rushed legislation is passed, granting excessive powers to executive governments, which compromise the rights and liberties of individuals beyond the exigencies of the situation. Often the loss of liberty is permanent. The purpose of holding the prisoners at Guantanamo Bay was and is to put them beyond the rule of law, beyond the protection of any courts, and at the mercy of the victors. At present, we're not meant to know what is happening there. But history will not be neutered. What takes place today in the name of the United States will assuredly, in due course, be judged at the bar of informed international opinion. The regime applicable at Guantanamo Bay was created by a succession of presidential orders. The prisoners, as matters stand at present, will be tried by military tribunals. The military will act as interrogators, prosecutors, defense counsel, judges, and when death sentences are imposed, as executioners. The military is, however, in all respects, subject to decisions of the President as Commander-in-Chief, even in respect of guilt and innocence in individual cases, as well as appropriate sentences. It is an awesome responsibility. The President has made public in advance his personal view of the prisoners as a group. He has described them all as killers. At Guantanamo Bay, arrangements for the trials are proceeding with great efficiency. A courtroom with an execution chamber nearby has apparently been constructed. But the British prisoners will not be liable to be executed. The Attorney General has negotiated a separate agreement with the Pentagon on the treatment of British prisoners. He has apparently received a promise that the British prisoners of war will not face the death penalty. This gives a new dimension to the concept of most favored nation treatment in international law. How could it be morally defensible to discriminate in this way between individual prisoners? It lifts the curtain a little on the arbitrariness of what is happening at Guantanamo Bay and in the corridors of power on both sides of the Atlantic. The question is whether the quality of justice envisaged for the prisoners at Guantanamo Bay complies with minimum international standards for the conduct of fair trials? The answer can be given quite shortly. It is a resounding no. Trials of the type contemplated by the United States government would be a stain on United States justice. The only thing that could be worse is simply to leave the prisoners in their black hole indefinitely. The type of justice meted out at Guantanamo Bay is likely to make martyrs of the prisoners in the moderate Muslim world with whom the West must work to ensure world peace and stability. It may be appropriate to pose a question. Ought we to make plain publicly and unambiguously our condemnation of the utter lawlessness of Guantanamo Bay? John Donne, who preached in the chapel here at Lincoln's Inn, gave the context of the question more than 4 centuries ago. No man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. Any man's death diminishes me because I am involved in mankind. And therefore, never send to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee.
My name is Erica Hunt, and it is my great honor to ask a couple of questions of Bishop Tutu. And of course, it is a great honor for us to have watched such a powerful play, such a powerful testimony. I understand that you have traveled from South Africa very recently in the last 2 days. That is an arduous trip, so I'm hoping that we will not keep you long. 2 questions that have been handed to me, and I think come directly from having watched this play. What, if anything, can be done to prevent a conflict between the Arab and Muslim nations and the Christian and American coalition from becoming a battle without end that will rage for centuries at the cost of lives and resources that neither side can begin to afford?
I too want to congratulate all who have been involved in this play. I thought I knew what was happening in Guantanamo Bay. It's a devastating play, very powerful, and the acting is superb. But it is, how can it happen? I mean, how can we let it happen? And that it be in our name, in your name. Please, how can you? And then for someone coming from South Africa, it's incredible to think that you have this deja vu. That's exactly what they said in South Africa. Hey, the apartheid government, why are you detaining these people? Why are you banning state security? does America want to be in the same category, the category of an apartheid regime? Answer your question. All of us tend to demonize, and we're doing it very well as Christians. We do it with things like, if you're opposed to sexuality, human sexuality, so the gay, the lesbian, and those people, the other, in order to be able to treat them abominably, you make them less than human. And we Christians have an incredible record of doing that. We are past masters and mistresses. And that's why war happens. You well know. War happens because it does seem as if we can't exist without an enemy. We were all very thrilled when the Cold War ended. We said, oh, hurrah, how wonderful. Now the world is going to be safe. But no, you see, people became disorientated. Without an enemy, who am I? I mean, how did I define myself? Oh, anti-communist. Yes. Now, I know it because we discovered, hey, maybe we needed a partner. Because it's so easy to be against, and the church at home suffers from an identity crisis, and the world suffered from an identity crisis when the Cold War ended. And so you have, it seems, you have to have an enemy in order to be you. Well, most politicians realize it. I mean, if your rating goes down, start a war. and so it's awful because no worthwhile religion actually espouses war. It is what we do with religion. Religion is morally neutral. Well, 10 Commandments. Well, when somebody says you are religious, they are not necessarily praising you. So, yeah, I mean, yeah. It's that we need people like you to bring back compassion and love and caring, and to know that the other is very important for me. If I am going to be me, I need you. At home we have something called Ubuntu. 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 Ubuntu is a person through other persons. And God was smart. God created us different so that we should know none of us could ever be self-sufficient. We need one another. And can you
can you be some of those advocates who say the other is beautiful? The other is absolutely essential for my meanness. I need you. I need you. I couldn't possibly be me unless you are you.
One last, unless there's somebody who has a burning question from the
You
audience.
notice, of course, I mean, having been a teacher for a little while, you stress the answer. As much time as possible. So you don't have too many questions.
No, I don't. Just one more. It struck me, watching this play, as it has many times since September 11th, that we live with almost unendurable fear and violence that we try to insulate ourselves from. And that has allowed all of these laws and the slow creeping web of regulation and law to grow around us, and it ensnares us. It ensnares, it, just as you said at the end, and you quoted Donne, "No man is an island." We are all implicated in everything that was shown to us on the stage. So my question is then, we are ensnared and it's around, we're tangled in it, our feet are in it. How do we walk out of it? What are, for you, the avenues for hope? How do we turn? You say we can become advocates for the other, but how do we concretely, do the work on the inside, not be so fearful, and do the work on the outside, undo these laws?
Thank you. As I grow older, and you can see I'm quite decrepit, as I grow older, I am amazed at the relevance of theology. Really. Well, I mean, one of the most obvious ones was when we were dealing with, in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, where you often dealt with some of the most ghastly atrocities. And the natural reaction of people was, oh, isn't he a monster? And you had to say, they have committed, and you must condemn it in the most stark possible way. They have committed monstrous deeds, even diabolical deeds. But you see, that doesn't turn them into monsters. That doesn't make them monsters. They still remain children of God with the capacity to become saints. Otherwise, we ought to give up this job. The TRC shut up shop, because the TRC is premised on the basis that it is possible for someone to change and be different. And so one had to keep saying at home, we've got to be careful. It's one of these incredible things that we have to keep holding on to. That Saddam Hussein is God's child, as George Bush is God's child. And God loves them all. That's an incredible thing. It's incredible to think that
many of those we would dismiss as the most ghastly human beings on earth. Yeah, maybe God sheds tears over them. Because you see, God's family has no outsiders, which is an incredible thing to think. That Hitler, that Mussolini, that Amin, that all of these are in God's family. But I wanted to say too about theology. One of the things that theology says is that human beings, by definition, are vulnerable. I think to some extent in this country you got to the point where you believed you were invulnerable. And that awful thing that happened on September the 11th, one hopes could have made you begin to realize. Theology says God is necessary being. That is to say, without God there could be nothing. And God is there, self-existent. But that you and I are contingent. We needn't have been. Which is a wonderful thing to say, that I am because God wanted me. God wanted you. And so you must be of enormous worth. That God wanted you. Didn't need you. Didn't need me. Fantastic. God didn't need me. But God wanted me. And God pours all of God's love on me as if I were the only human being that exists. You. That you, God loved you as if you were the only human being. But that your life is a gift. The image in the Bible is of God blowing God's breath into you. That if God stopped even for a split second, you'd collapse into oblivion. I would collapse into oblivion. And that is of the nature of a creature. And the trouble is, not too many of us have been able to handle that truth, that I am essentially vulnerable. And you know, I mean, when you're insecure, not too many of us know how to handle being insecure. Now we're fundamentally insecure. I am going to need your protection, but of all of God's creatures, men are the most insecure. Well, I have to tell you. Yeah, I can get up maybe and speak, and maybe crazy people think they want to give me a standing ovation. But until Leah, my wife, says to me, oh, that was not too bad. It's incredible, really. I mean, I wish it was different. But I really sit feeling quite miserable until she says, I don't think that was too bad. But that when people are insecure, and you know it, I don't have to tell you, I mean, even those of us who know only the most rudimentary psychology know that people then tend to hit out, to say, take notice of me,
because they're feeling hollow inside and they're trying to pretend that there isn't that hollowness. And you know what? God has got no one except you to help make this country truly great. Because I've not met anywhere in the world people more generous than yourselves. And how come the things that you want to export are not your generosity? Your love, your compassion, your caring. Why do you want to export bombs